Hello and welcome to my summer reading recommendations video. My name is Hannah and I love to read, so here are some books I have already read that I think are super summery or books that I would love to read this summer. Let's get into it. So when I think of summer, I think of going on vacation to the beach and the ocean and the sea. So let's get into these sea adventure books. Number one is Dragon Fruit by Makia Lucier. This is a romantic fantasy inspired by Pacific Island mythology. It is about a girl named Hanalei whose father has stolen a sea dragon egg, and because of that, the gods punish him by banishing Hanalei. And so while she is in exile, she learns a lot about sea dragons. She encounters many of them, and one day one of these sea dragons comes to her with an opportunity for her to go home, but she has to go complete this quest first. And so that's what this book is about. The reason this book is on my list is because I am Polynesian, and I was so intrigued to see that this book is inspired by Pacific Island mythology. I don't see many books inspired by that. So I quickly added this to my list for that reason. And I also am excited to see how it kind of weaves in that like fantasy mythology aspect with this like seafaring adventure. And that reminded me of a book that I just finished reading called The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi, which is my next recommendation. This book is by Shannon Chakraborty. It is about a retired female pirate who is recruited to come out of retirement and go on this sea adventure to save the daughter of one of her former crew members. And so she goes on this fantastical piratey adventure through the Indian Ocean to save this girl that's been kidnapped by this evil sorcerer. I had so much fun reading this. Amina and her crew go through so many different adventures. They encounter different like mystical spirits and demons and fantastical elements, but they also have to deal with just everyday pirate adventure-y kind of things. And so I had a lot of fun reading this book. Another thing I really liked about this book is that it takes place in our world in like the 11 or 1200s in the Indian Ocean. It is like based around like this real history. So it's like a historical fantasy, I think is what they call it, where like you have this like real history intertwined with fantastical elements. And I thought that was really cool. There's some information included at the end of the book about the history behind this and like what inspired it and stuff. And just the history nerd in me loved that. This was a really fun read, and I would highly recommend that you read it too. Another piratey adventure is The Wager. This is by David Gran. This is a historical nonfiction about a British ship from the 1700s that is sent to go intercept or like wreck this Spanish ship, because at this time, the British and the Spanish were at war. And so you have this British ship that's supposed to go after the Spanish one. And along the way, they get shipwrecked off the coast of Patagonia. Their crew is split up during this whole thing. And so you have these two different stories, two different sides of this same story of how the ship got wrecked, what happened after, and how they survived, and all of this stuff. If you haven't noticed by my previous couple of book recommendations, I lately have just been really into like piratey adventures. And so I'm really excited to read this one because yes, it's piratey, but it's also a true story. And like I mentioned with my last recommendation, if there's a historical story that like captures my interest, I really want to know more about it. So I think this is definitely going to be an interesting read. Moving on, the next recommendation is Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. This is about a woman who goes on a deep sea research trip in this submarine. Along the way, the submarine like malfunctions. There's some sort of issue. Because of that, this trip takes a lot longer. And so when she does finally return home, her wife is like, whoa, you're not my wife. What's going on here? You're not my wife. And so it's kind of this mystery, this drama of what really happened down in the depths of the ocean. It sounds interesting to me. I feel like it could go one of two ways. It could either be, maybe there's a sci-fi supernatural element to this where she really isn't who she says she is. She's just masking as this person or acting like this person. Or maybe she just had a really traumatic experience and the trauma has just changed her. Either way, I think it could be really interesting, and I'm really looking forward to reading it this summer. Next, The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. Now this This book doesn't take place at sea, but it has sea in the name, so I had to include it in this category. This is about a grad student who one day is browsing in the library and finds this really old, mysterious looking book. As he opens it up and starts to read, he discovers a story that happened to him when he was a child, and he's like, whoa, how did my story end up in this old, mysterious book? This question leads him on this adventure to figure out what's going on. Again, it sounds kind of mysterious, and I am a sucker for a good mystery. Also, I've heard that this is a book about stories and the power that stories have. I love stories. I'm excited to read about this theme of stories. All right, those are all of my sea-related recommendations. Next, we're moving on to really colorful contemporary romances. I don't know about you, but when I see book covers like this, I think summer. I just do. Number 1 is Beach Read by Emily Henry. In this book, we have a romance author who moves in next door to another author. One summer, they challenge each other to write a novel in the other's genre. So this romance author, who's our main character, she has to write the next great American novel while her neighbor has to write a romance. And so it sounds like a fun premise. I like that it's centered around authors and writing stories. It's kind of meta, but I think it is fun, and it's on my list because I'm trying to get more into romance this year, and I figured there's no better place to start than with an Emily Henry book, because if you haven't been on Book Talk or BookTube in the last few years, let me fill you in. Emily Henry is a romance author who has just blown up in the last few years. She is super popular, and it seems like everybody loves every single one of her books. So this is one of the first of her books to really gain that traction and that hype online, and so I'm curious why. I'm curious why. Next is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. This is about a woman named Emma and a man named Justin. They believe that they are cursed because every person they have dated in the last few years has dumped them and then immediately gone on to meet and marry their soulmate. And so they're like, what the heck? How does this keep happening? And somehow they find each other, and they decide that if they date each other for a little while, then their respective curses are gonna counteract each other and cancel each other out. So then once they break up, they'll go on to find their soulmate. So they agree to date just for the summer. That's what this book is about. I think this premise sounds like a lot of fun. I like the curse aspect of it. I like that I don't know, it just seems really fun and unique, and I'm excited to read it. Next few books in my romance category are books that I would like to read for Pride Month. Number 1 is the 5th Heartstopper graphic novel. This is a series of graphic novels by Alice Oseman. I read the first 4 last year and absolutely ate up every single one of them. Loved them so much. So I'm ready to read the 5th one. I'm ready to see how Charlie and Nick's story continues. For those of you who are unfamiliar with this series, this is a series of graphic novels about 2 teenage boys and how they fall in love, how they navigate just the ups and downs of teenage romance. It is so cute. It is so sweet. Like I said, I've loved it. And so I want to finish the series this summer. Next is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McKiston. This is a book where the son of the American president falls in love with the British prince. It's about them falling in love and navigating their relationship as public figures. It's very public figures, and just the pressure that adds to a relationship. It sounds fun. I've heard a lot about it in the last few years on Book Talk and BookTube, so I figured it was about time that I pick it up. The last romance on my list is called Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. This is about a woman named Delilah who has to return to her hometown, which she absolutely despises because her stepsister is getting married and has asked Delilah to be the photographer at the wedding. So she goes to her hometown, and amongst all of the wedding festivities, she falls for one of her stepsister's friends, whose name is Claire. Will Claire help Delilah change her opinion on her hometown? Will she have a better view of it now that she's in love? Maybe. This sounds light. It sounds fun. I mean this in the best way possible. This sounds like a Hallmark romance. I do have 5 honorable mentions for you really quick, okay? Number 1, Tress of the Emerald Sea. I read this last summer, and this book is what started rekindled my love for pirate adventure stories. It was also my favorite book of last year. I've already talked about it way too much on this channel, so I'm not going to say anything more, but just know it's really good. Second, Peter and the Starcatchers. This is yet again another piratey adventure story, and it also tells the origin story of Peter Pan. I've talked about it a lot recently, so I'm not going to say anything other than that, but again, it's good. Number 3, Bug Boys. This is another graphic novel, and just look at it. Does that not look like summertime to you? Does that not look like summertime frolicking adventures to you? So excited to read this one. Number 4, 7 Days in June. This takes place in June, so it's fitting. It takes place in the summer. It's a romance. Yes, please. My last honorable mention is People We Meet on Vacation. This is another early Emily Henry, one of the books that kind of helped her gain her current internet fame, and so I'm curious about it. And it seems very summery. Those are all of my summer reading recommendations. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this has inspired you to read some more this summer and to have fun while doing so. If you have any recommendations of your own, leave that in the comments below. What books feel summery to you? With all that said, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening to me ramble about books, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!